Hippopotamus, back with my last video for today, and this one is well, I want to call it a hybrid striker build, okay? So it is a striker build, but it's got some survivability. It's not all red and it's not all blue. It's kind of like halfway between, um, and it has some utility with the hive as well. It's got more shots in the hive, blah blah blah. Let's start with the build and actually show you, okay? So, starting with the specialization, we are using the gunner. The big reason for the gunner is just that we are absolutely rinsing ammo. We are going through ammo quick. So the supply line is going to be very useful. The emplacement, when you just sort of stand still, 10% weapon handling, yeah, not bad. The fire rate increase, that synergizes quite nicely with Striker itself, because you get, I think, 15%. We'll see in just a second, but that bumps it up to like 20%, which is great. Um, we also have 10% armor on a kill, incessant. That's very, very good. We will be getting a lot of kills with this build, so yeah, that's absolutely perfect. The coupler, every third reload is faster, is great. The armor kit, which gives us 30% bonus armor for 10 seconds after we apply it, that's also very good. That's going to make us a little bit stronger. And as we do have some blue tiers as well, some blue cores, blue tiers, we are also going to feel a lot more benefit out of that 30%, because 30% of 900,000 compared to like 30% of 1.5 million, there is some difference. You're going to feel it a little bit more. So yeah, we get some use out of that. The riot foam grenades, yeah, they're awesome for sticking down the big chungers, heavy tanks. I do want to say that the specialization minigun with Striker works absolutely amazing, because the bullets hitting from the minigun stack and actually build stacks from Striker. So I think the minigun is probably one of the best specialization weapons to use with Striker. So again, another reason. And we also have synergizing weapons. So in this case, it is the shotgun and the assault rifle. So as always, we have synergizing weapons. Right, let's go have a look at the build. So get down to the range over here. And we just have a quick look. So, on first glance, we're using it pretty much the same way that most people will use weapons-wise Striker, and that is with the rock and roll. This comes rolled with shotgun damage, damage to armor, and damage to targets out of cover. All great stuff. And it comes with the perfectly extra talent, which is the 50% extra magazine capacity. Look, if you want to use, I don't know if I've got a lefty in here. If you want to use a lefty, unfortunately I don't have a lefty here. If you want to use the lefty, that's fine. That's no problem. The perfect sledgehammer talent is actually quite nice as well. But I'm using this because I have the chest piece, and the chest piece increases your stacks to 200. Okay, and it can be a little bit hard to get 200 stacks if you don't have a viable means of doing so, i.e. using the shotgun. So for each pellet that's fired out of the shotgun, it's going to basically be like a stack. And I think there's about 8 pellets from a shotgun. So you can stack much quicker with a shotgun than you can with other weapons. And again, it's an automatic shotgun, so it fires quick. Okay, so for this build, I'm using the Elmos. It's a fan favorite, really. It's most people like this weapon. It just shoots straight and it does everything it says on the tin, and it also shocks enemies. We'll go through that now. So this weapon, I've got 10 ranks of expertise. Again, this build I put 10 ranks of expertise in because it's a PvE build. You can put more in, you can put less in. It doesn't really matter so much if you use either or. If you use more, it's going to work better. If you don't have as many, it's still going to work good. So don't worry. But I think 10 is achievable for everybody. Okay, so that's why I'm there. Again, assault rifle damage, health damage, damage to targets out cover. Might have said that. Sorry if I did. Now, Actum Est, I think that is. Probably said that absolutely completely wrong. But shooting an enemy with this weapon will give 1 stack. At 100 stacks, the next magazine will be 100% filled with shock ammo. Okay, the shock ammo is great. I mean, you kind of waste a lot of the shock ammo, but I mean, shocking a target, anything, it's good. It is very, very, very good. Okay, so yeah, amazing. Now, woohoo! I'm not using the TDI card. I'm using the Orbit pistol, okay? The Orbit pistol, this is great because what this does is it directly translates to giving us crit chance, crit damage. So this one is rolled with pistol damage, crit chance, and it has the talent Perfect Finisher on it. Okay, so swapping from this weapon within 10 seconds of killing an enemy grants 35% critical hit chance and 40% crit hit damage. You know, holy cow, that's a lot. So, and it is possible to get kills with your pistol. You know, if you aim for the weaker enemies and then you switch, you know, this can lead to big numbers. So I will show off a couple of ways of using that. Okay, once we get to the range. Now onto the build. So starting with the exotic, as I normally do, I'm using the Ninja Bike Backpack. So what does this do? Well, it gives us all three tiers. So a skill tier, an armor tier, and a weapon damage tier, which is great. And I've put an in-slot mod of crit hit damage. Okay, but the talent is what we're interested in more so than anything. These other things do come into it, but I'll talk about those in just a second. It's the resourceful talent. Slot in with any equipment, gear, set, or brand set item to fulfill a requirement towards unlocking a gear set bonus. Can unlock bonuses from multiple sets simultaneously. So I guess the best way to describe that is if I'm wearing one piece of Walker Harris, I get two. If I wear one piece of Striker, I get two. Okay, so it's good because it's going to allow us to take different things than wearing four pieces of Striker gear. Okay, so with that said, let's start with the Striker gear set. I am wearing the chest piece, and what this does is it gives us, if we wear two pieces of it, which is obviously we've got one, and the backpack, we have two pieces, now we have 15% weapon handling. On the three piece, we gain 15% fire rate. Thank goodness I was right from before. So, yeah, 20 if we get a kill with our specialization. And if I wear three pieces of it, which we are, I get the four piece, which is Striker's Gamble. Weapon hits increase total weapon damage by 0.65%, stacking up to 100 times. So if my maths is right, that's 65% extra weapon damage. A lot. So stacks lost per second between 0 and 50 is 1, and stacks lost between 50 and 100 is 2. So depending on how many stacks you have is how many you lose. And then with the chest piece, this is going to give us more damage than, say, using something like Obliterate. Yes, we could use Obliterate, but it's only giving us 20% extra damage. We're using this, which gives us an extra 100 stacks, okay? So it is a lot more damage, okay? It is a lot more damage, and we have a way to get to those 200 stacks reliably, so that's important to say. With this one, I've got it rolled with a core attribute of armor. It's got crit hit chance, and then a crit hit chance mod into it, okay? So just go through that quickly. So yeah, so another piece of strikers. Here was my glove, and this is rolled with weapon damage and crit hit damage. So nothing more to note from that one. And then the knee pads, I have rolled on an armor core, and I have an attribute of crit hit damage. Okay. So let's take a look at the holster. So the holster is the Picaros. I'm wearing one piece of it. So what this is going to do is it's Brazos. So it's 10% skill haste, which is good because the hive is like 3 minutes, I think, sometimes to on with no skill tiers to cool down. So 10% of that is quite significant. Also, sometimes our shield will break. So having a little bit of extra skill haste is good. Right, the extra skill tier, that is great because you will see with this build, over the left, if we look at the cores that we have 3 red, 4 blue, and 1 yellow. Now, with this passive skill tier, we have 2 yellow. So with the 4 blue and the 2 yellow that we have a tier 6 shield, which is great. That's the strongest shield we can get, right? So that's part of the reason why I've gone down this route. Now, the other half of the reason why I've gone down this route is because obviously it gives us an armor core and it gives us the crit damage which we want, but it's that 10% weapon damage. Okay, so if we take this 10% weapon damage and move on to the next piece, which is our Walker Harris, 5% weapon damage, that is 10 plus 5. Well, to me, that looks like a armor core. It looks like a damage core. That's 15. So in actuality, our stats, just from where we are passively, are now 4 red, 4 blue, and 2 yellow. Okay, so it's like having a 4-4-2. It's like having a football team. Anyway, the backpack allows us to unlock the second piece of Walker Harris, and that armor damage is quite nice. I mean, it's going to give us damage to armor with our assault rifle and that extra damage to armor with the shotgun, it really is nice. It really does help. It's not a lot, but it definitely, you will feel it when you're at full stacks. It's going to give us that extra damage that we need to just pull the enemy's armor off and get them down to health, and then we've got them on the health damage bonus. You're not going to see both active at the same time on the Elmos with the health and armor damage, but it's just an extra source of damage. Okay, so this comes rolled with weapon damage, critted chance, critted damage, and a critted chance mod. So the main things to note is that I'm using a hive. We have a tier 2 hive, so we have an extra 2 shots. I think that's 3 in total. So effectively, I can pick up the whole team. If I'm in a group of 4 and everybody goes down, I can throw my hive out and I could pick up everybody. Or I could drop my hive, pick somebody up, and then pick the hive back up, and I've still got a couple of shots in there. So I can, have that utility to actually rescue teammates a little bit. And I still have the amount of armor that I can move around. I've got 1.5 million, much more than just a squishy little red striker build. Okay. Again, we've talked about it. I'm just using the regular shield, the Crusader. And this is just going to give me the strongest possible shield that I can have while I still have red cores active, and I'm still getting like sort of passive yellow cores there. So pretty much that explains the most part of that. Okay, hope that was sort of easier to understand. I know that might have been a bit of a hodgepodge. We have the riot foam grenades. Don't forget about those. Those slow big enemies down. They're quite good. Okay, so let's go to the range. Let's just check a couple of things, because the last couple of videos I've been making some mistakes with leaving things on. So what we'll do is we won't activate that. We will turn this skill haste off, because we had a terrible time with that last time. And what we'll do is we'll just go in and out, and now we should see accurate numbers when we look at the stat sheet. So, weapon talents, perfectly extra. Why? Because we're having to build stacks. The chest piece gives us extra 100 stacks, so using this is going to be very helpful for building them stacks. Acumen Est is the shock ammo, which everybody loves. Perfect finisher, I'll show you a way of using that in just a minute. And then obviously we have the specialization, the gunner. Right, so weapon damage numbers, just going to fly through these reasonably quickly. 44 crit chance on the shotgun. Again, I'm just using all crit chance mods if you're wondering what was there. And we have 49% crit chance and 120% crit damage. I think this is good. For the amount of blue tiers that we have, 50%, 10 off the cap. I think that's actually really, really good. Plus the 120% crit damage. You could, sort of alter the scale a little bit if you wanted to. Put another 6% crit chance mod in instead of a crit damage, and give yourself a bit more there if you wanted. But I feel that this is a quite nice number for where we're at in terms of damage and armor. Okay, so, and we can see that 5% armor damage on there as well. Okay. So weapon damage is moderate. It's sort of moderately high because we do have 4 red tiers, okay? So we're going to have some damage. Gear talents are resourceful, which is quite useful because we're taking full advantage of that. And we also have press the advantage from Striker. Remembering that we have multiple sets unlocked, as well as multiple pieces with each one because of the backpack. So we have Walker Harris 2-piece. We have the Ninja Bike backpack, can't speak, and the Striker's battle gear. We have 4 pieces of that, even though we're wearing 3. And we also have 2 pieces of Brazos with the Picaro's holster. Okay, so armor. We actually surprisingly have nearly 1. Well, we're getting towards 1.6 if we start dropping ranks in. So we have 1.5 million armor. We're not dead squishy. We can move around, and although we're not a full blue striker, we're also not a full red striker either. We're sat somewhere in between. And I think for some people, this is going to be really useful. You want the damage, but you want to be able to move around. But you don't want to be all blue, and you don't want to be all red. This is the solution. Okay. So again, probably should say about my wrist watch level been 1,000. If you don't have wristwatch level 1,000, you're not going to see the same numbers here. So quick disclaimer, don't say that every video. I kind of take that as a given. I really shouldn't, but I do. And we have a skill tier 6 shield. Okay, so right, onto the build, how to use it. Main thing is just don't forget about those foam grenades. Those riot foam grenades do slow big enemies down. It's going to allow you to just sort of tip damage on them, and they're not going to be able to move. Let's bring a target over towards me here, and let's put it on a boss. So the best thing to do is just run up to enemies when you first start, when you've got no stacks, as you can see here. And as you can see, within one magazine, 1.25 magazine, you're going to be at full stacks. Okay, so now we can actually see some accurate damage. So let's do a little bit in the chest, a little bit in the head. Okay, let's just. Okay, so like 800,000. So what we can do is, if you want to squeeze a little bit more damage out, when we're at full stacks or higher stacks, we can pull a pistol out and we're still 3-shot an enemy, you know, or the red enemies, you can pretty much just 1-shot. I mean, 1.8 million. And then all of a sudden, once we pull out this, okay, almost 1 million. It's not bad, you know, for where we're at. So, I really like this build. I think this is like a really nice in-between between sort of damage and being a little bit tankier. Hopefully you've enjoyed this one. This one's a little bit different, and I think a few people will actually find this build quite enjoyable. It's the 442, so I'll probably call it that. Alright guys, I hope you've enjoyed this one. It's been a little bit longer. My videos are getting longer as my explanations are having to accommodate for slight changes in builds or caveats, so I apologise for that. Hopefully we will see you in the next one, and thanks very much for watching. Cheers guys.